Right, I'm starving. Gab started cooking dinner right now. We've got about 35 minutes for me to teach you this solo, and then I'm going to nip off and eat something. Challenge accepted. See you on the other side. So last week, one of my students said, "Hey, Sped, can we do the guitar solo from Bohemian Rhapsody?" And I said, "You're damn right we can. It's a brilliant solo, great suggestion." So I went over it again just to remind myself because I forget, very busy. And put a little clip of it on my Instagram stories. And a few people commented saying, "I love the way you play it. Can you do a little lesson?" I replied, obviously saying, see if I can fit it into my schedule. So here we are. Now, before we go into learning the solo note for note, let's figure out what key we're in and take a look at some of the scale shapes that we're going to need to make it easier for us, okay? So we're in the key of E flat, and here are 3 positions of the E flat major scale that you're going to need to play this, okay? So that third position there didn't reach the full second octave. You can play it all the way up there if you want, but we're not going to go beyond the 18th fret of the high E. If that was too fast for you and you want the extra help, I'm going to put the scales underneath the tab on Patreon, and you can learn them, get them down, memorize them, and learning the solo will be a lot easier. Another benefit of having that awareness is that if you really like certain parts of this solo when you learn it, and you know the key you're in and the scale position that you've used, you can then borrow from Bry, and you can use those licks or those kind of runs in your own songwriting or improv. If you have no awareness, you're just learning notes and things that sound cool, and you can only do them when playing the song. So we start by hitting the 8th fret of the D string, the note B flat, with the index finger, some vibrato. I actually like to do a quick slide into that note for extra kind of theatrical purpose. We're then going to jump to the 10th fret of the G. We're going to bend it up a whole step, back down, and then pull off to the index finger on the 8. Then we go to the 11th fret of the B string with the 3rd finger, and we hold it with some vibrato. Quickly come back to the 8th fret of the B, a little staccato note, and then back to the 11, but bend it up a whole step with vibrato. It's always challenging to try and put that vibrato on a bend. But when you're doing it slow for a lesson, it like starts to warp. Here's the next little part. So we're up to the note C on the B string, fret 13, index finger, and our 2nd and 3rd fingers are going to walk up to the 15 and the 16. On that C, you're going to want to put a little bit of vibrato each time you hit it. And then at the end, you're going to hit that 16 again and bend it up a whole tone with vibrato. I've got a little noise gate on to keep it a little bit quieter for you, so that might kind of eat away at my signal at the end. That's my excuse anyway. Next bit. So you have this nice little staccato run, working its way up to a big bend. Index finger bar in the 13th fret of the B, then the E, and you're going to roll it so that the notes don't bleed out. Separation. I like to put my third finger now on the 15, and then I go to the 16, and then the 18. As well as me kind of rolling the first finger across the 2 there, I'm also bringing the pick back in and touching the string each time just before I pick the note. And what that does is kill the note dead. It assists you when you want that kind of choppy sound. So you're touching the string just before you pick it again. Hope that helps. Bend that 18th fret up a whole step and try and keep it at pitch whilst you give it some vibrato. If you're unsure of what it should sound like, play fret 20, bend up to it, and then practice holding it there with vibrato. You want to let it down, back up to pitch. It's very easy to let that go. So you've got to practice it. It's tough, it's difficult. Here's the really cool descending pattern. So the first note here is actually a pre-bend release, the 18 bent up a whole step, coming straight down. But let's just fret that note as an 18 for now, because it makes it easier to memorize. We're going to go 18, 16, 15, 16, 3, 2, 1, 2 on the high E. Then we have a hammer on pull off, 15, 16, 15. Then we go to the B string on the 18, and then back to the high E. Now you've memorized that, we're actually going to do the same thing again, but on the B string. Now when we move down to the G, the scale shape changes, so we have to use third finger on the 17, but we still come back up to the 15 on the B. And to finish up, we're going to hit the 17, then the 15. And you can give that some really wild vibrato. All you have to do now, pre-bend release the first note. And try and give it some of that kind of sporadic staccato delivery that Brian May does. Now, because you know the key and you've learnt the scale, you already know the next bit. We're actually just going to ascend from the 15 on the G to the 18 on the E, in order. And you can do the same thing again, and then bend that last note up whole tone. I was describing the feel of this to my student. I was saying it's like the first one, he's kind of tripped and he's trying to find his feet. And then the second time, he plays it with a lot more confidence and speed as he's working his way up to that bend. Okay, just have fun with it. Get the technique down and then build the speed later. So we're back to the 13, 15, 16 on the B string again, but we start on the note D on the 15. Every time we hit the C with the index finger, we are going to put the vibrato on again. After that 16, we're going to bend it up a whole step. Put that vibrato in again. And that brings us to the last part. So that's going to be 10, 12, 13 on the G, index, second, third. Some vibrato. I grab the 13 on the high E with the pinky, a little bit of vibrato if you can, and then come back to the 13 on the G. Then take your pinky to the 14th fret of the B, and you're going to hit that 3 times. And slide down and out. Now we're going to use that slide to get to our next note. Now when you pick that 6th fret of the G, you're going to hold it for a second before hammering on to the 7 with the pinky, pulling back off to the 6, and then pulling off to the 4. So it helps to prep that index finger and have it already fretted. And to finish, we're going to take that pinky down to the note A on the D string, 7th fret. Every note wants to be accounted for. I feel like a lot of people miss this B note out and they just do this. But it really makes a difference putting it in there. I've watched some footage of Brian because he kind of lifts his guitar up. I think he likes to stretch and use the 2nd and the 3rd fingers. But that's really uncomfortable for me when I'm sat like this. I guess if I had my guitar like this. It's a lot easier, but I look like I'm on the front of Classical Guitarist magazine now, don't I? It's hard to play it slow. Once you get your technique though, off you go. Now, going back to what we said before about having that awareness of the key signature and the scales, let's say I wanted to kind of do a fast little run that's reminiscent of Brian May in this solo, but I wanted to do it in A minor. I can piece something together like that, nick it from Brian, and he can bill me for it, can't he? Check's in the mail, Brian. Hope you enjoyed that little lesson focused on the first guitar solo from Bohemian Rhapsody. It's an absolute classic, very melodic and full of very useful technique. If you want the tab, it's on my Patreon. It's got the 3 scale shapes that we're going to use throughout, which will really help. It's beneficial to you. And if you need any help, come chat to me. Follow me on Instagram. Don't follow me around where I live or like come to my house and stuff because I have to call the police. I like my privacy. Right, I can smell my dinner. Gab's cooking, it smells good. I was going to say for once, but I don't really fancy getting a slap for dessert. So, I'm going to go and eat. In the meantime, you practice some Queen and have a very good weekend, okay? Oh no, that reminds me. I know where it is.